Here's a preview of what you'll hear on this episode of Beyond the Wheel.
I just made a buy box. It was 40 acres and above. It had to be on water, and it had to be close to one of the major metropolitan areas. And Nashville was my first one. So I identified probably 6 different properties in the beginning of this. And it just so happened that 4 of those properties were all in the same county.
Now enjoy the show.
You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. With the increasing popularity of RVing, it is great to hear that there will soon be a new camping option in Tennessee. Joey Locker from Locker's Southern View Luxury Motorcoach Resort joins us, and I think you will be amazed of what he has planned to include in this one-of-a-kind RV resort. So let's get this episode started.
Hi, Joey. Welcome to the podcast. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself and your role at Locker's Southern View Luxury Motorcoach Resort?
Thanks for having me on the show, guys. Locker Southern View is a kind of an idea put together back in the early 2020 is when I first started to have the idea, and it didn't start out to this. So this started out as 5 acres that I wanted near water. I wanted to have basically the lake life without the lake life cost. Back in 2020, I was part of the statistic of people who had a baby during COVID. Unplanned, but it's been kind of great ever since. But my son's mother got to meet her family, and they own they have a lot inside a small 30-acre RV spot in around Lake Monroe in Indiana. It's probably 30 acres. They've got small spots, gravel lots, but everyone comes in and brings their fifth wheel trailers in or travel trailers in, drops them off, and starts building little compounds around. They got a spot for their boat. They got a spot for their truck. They got decks coming off of them. That was one of the first times I'd ever seen something like that. I'd seen just overnight RV parks, but I'd not really seen that kind of community feel that they had there, and it being obtainable in life earlier instead of like some of these other stuff that are millions of dollars. Just start there. And I realized that we didn't really have that back in Nashville either, but I loved it. So we come back and from that trip, and I started just putting the idea together, like just finding 5 acres. We could put a couple fifth wheels out there. We could put our boats out there. We could go and have the lake life without that big price tag that kind of comes along with it. And when we weren't there, we could rent it out. We could have people come in and kind of float the cash to be able to have this lifestyle. So started putting the idea together, looking for property, and just so happened we were at another friend's house, kind of chatting a little bit about the industry and about us kind of talking about doing this. And her parents actually kind of overheard us kind of talking about it, and were saying, "Oh yeah, we own a couple RV lots in Las Vegas Motorcoach Club." And when they said that, I was like, "What do you mean you own lots?" I was like, "So you mean you own an RV park?" Like, no, we own it. We own a lot. We own 2 lots in Vegas. And I was like, it just blew me away. So I looked it up, and Las Vegas Motorcoach Club has lots in there going from like 130,000 at the time up to like 1.3 million. And it astonished me. It was just something completely over my head, didn't know existed in the outdoor world. Like I grew up camping. I did those things, but this was I didn't even see this at TV. I didn't see it in ads or any of this. So I looked at the bigger picture of it. And when you look at the bigger picture of Las Vegas Motorcoach Resort was 40 acres, 406 lots. They had an HOA of $575 a month now for every one of those lots. I mean, that property's worth north of, 200 something $1 million. And it just blew me away. So I looked at where those other resorts kind of were. And you started seeing them in California. You saw them in Florida. You saw some in South Carolina. There's a great one in Michigan, Colorado. But you didn't really see them in Middle America. I mean, you didn't really see that luxury side of things through part where I really believe people were the Passover states, in a sense, I guess some people call it. But I knew that I loved Tennessee and looked closer to Nashville. Nashville was one of the boomiest travel spots in the United States. And then when you start paying attention to small things, other things start really kind of coming out at you. And you look at the resorts that we have around Nashville, and you just had no luxury. I mean, you had some nice ones, but nothing that catered towards the luxury class where someone is dropping $2 million, $3 million on their rig, and we're wanting some nicer amenities. So I luckily had a mentor early in my career tell me that he goes, Joey, stop worrying about the money of your ideas. He goes, you got to put together a good idea first, and then the money will kind of be the easy part that comes along with it. So I remembered that, and I just started putting the plan together. The first thing I Googled was, and it's crazy to say this, but how to build an RV park. And it took off from there. And I just kept Googling and picking up the phone and calling people that were actually doing this. And that was the part that at first was scary. Like, man, is this person going to pick up? And every one of them picked up. They were so happy to kind of talk about this, because most of these resorts that are out there were built in maybe the early 2000s and maybe the 90s. And you've not seen an uptick of the luxury class since then. I mean, they're the top 10 have kind of been the top 10 since they opened, and nothing's really changed in there. And you're seeing some more parks kind of come on board with that, but we're missing a hole in Tennessee. There wasn't a luxury park within 300 miles of it. I started putting the plan together and finally found the property, started talking to the ownership, started talking to the county and the city to make sure they wanted this as well, and started putting it together. And finally, when I had a good plan put together with a lot of research, a lot of help, and it's not as hard to build as an RV park as everyone says it is. They hype it up to be something, but I guess in my mind, it's a process. Take one step at a time, and then you'll get it done. But it's when people will get to certain steps and that next step scares them and they won't ever take it. So I just kept taking it step by step, because if you looked at the larger picture of it, man, that was scary. But it's still scary today a little bit, but you should be a little bit scared about going for something this big. But started putting it together and got the plan together, and was vocal about it with friends and family, and they all said I was crazy. I mean, a lot of my friends know that I have a passion and a kind of a drive about me, and I've probably thrown out 20 ideas of businesses and have plenty of them that have failed, but taking those kind of next steps was worth it in my mind on it. So finally was very vocal about it, found some other gentlemen online that were also looking to build RV resorts and stuff. We finally teamed up together, and they came on as partners on it. And then I had a close friend of mine here in Nashville. Basically, the moment that I found those other partners, he was like, all right, I've got the rest of it. I'm not going to miss this opportunity to kind of do this. So went from that. And then one of the big factors in this was, this is such a niche kind of thing. There's not an RV lots being sold everywhere throughout the United States with all this. So I interviewed, 50 different real estate agents, probably, trying to be okay, because I knew I couldn't go out and sell a luxury RV lot when a couple years ago I didn't know luxury RV lots existed. So that wasn't really in my forte, but luckily, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to do this by myself. This was way too big to even consider doing it by myself. And me being someone that's basically lived in the corporate world my entire life, the only way those companies got to as big as they were is because of the team that they built with. So I was luckily following a couple of podcasts through all this, because there's a couple guys out there that talk about doing RV parks, and a majority of your developers that are out there are taking your mom and pops and bringing them into the 21st century and just kind of flipping them. And it's a great business model, and it's clearly working. That was kind of boring to me in that sense. It's what everyone else was kind of doing in that.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick. So then is Locker's Southern View Luxury Motorcoach Resort, is that you're starting it from scratch? You're not taking an existing anything?
So a little bit about the actual resort itself is this is a 72-acre property. You've got a half a mile of riverfront. We have 285 total lots on the resort. 193 of those lots will be deeded lots that will run 225 to 450 for some of the river lots. You've got another 92 lots that'll be rental lots that the resort will own. We'll have 10 cabins on property. We'll have 2 main clubhouses. The main clubhouse will be 8,400 square foot with pool, retail store, gym, event center, a kitchen all in there. Then you'll have 8 pickleball courts, and then an on-site restaurant with a boardwalk park that goes through it. There's a historical part in that I'm extremely excited about. And then we'll also have an outdoor amphitheater as well.
So like a true resort.
Oh, yes. It's bold to say, but I really want to be one of the new resorts on that top 10 list. Being able to create something here in Tennessee where home is it's big as well. So it's huge.
And you said that you were going to have a historic portion or a historic park. Because when I think of Tennessee and Nashville, I think of it as being a very fun town, but there is a lot of history there as well.
So one of the things, and probably scary to everyone in this situation when it first came up, was when we were looking at the property, I took some of the community leaders around the property to kind of, because that was my first step is, yeah, you had a great idea, but what area wanted this in their town? Who was going to come over and back this? And I went through Davidson County. I went through some of the other neighboring counties and talked to them. And they're like, yeah, we love the idea, but here's the list of hoops you need to jump through over the next few years to be able to consider this. And I luckily found a small town next to Nashville. We're 25 minutes by car to downtown Nashville and about an hour and a half boat ride to downtown Nashville. So Cheatham County, I went and met all the leadership within the county, and I asked them, I was like, hey, I've got this idea. Is this something you guys would want? And luckily they were on board. They really were behind me on it. So started bringing some of them out to the property, show them around, show them the idea of what we were thinking. There was a gentleman named Perry Keenan. He's a local up there. We're taking a ride around the property, and he looks at one part of the property and he goes, man, that hill looks a little suspicious. That'd be rough if that was an Indian mound. And I was like, what's an Indian mound? What are you talking about? And he was like, well, we've through this area, there's a lot of Indian mounds have kind of been found, and if that's on your property, you're done. So that's all I thought about for the next hour and a half that I was trying to show them around the property. They left, and I sat on the property and started Googling. I'm like, how do you know if you have an Indian mound on your property? What do you need to do here? One of the first things that kind of popped up was the state. Just call your state representative, or the archaeological department at the Tennessee State Department. And there's a gentleman there. His name was Aaron Dieter Wolf. Is the guy I kind of talked to. I called him and I was like, hey, Aaron, I'm looking at buying a piece of property, but someone mentioned that we may have an Indian mound on there. He was like, well, send me the property. I'll look it up. He calls me back shortly after that, and he goes, no, you don't have an Indian mound on your property. We found and identified all the ones in the state. He goes, but you do have an area on your property that has been identified as having potential archaeological history on it. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, when can you come see this? And he basically came out the next day. And as we're walking through it, he was kind of telling me some stuff about the area. And he looks at me and he goes, "You want to know something funny?" He goes, "I wrote a book over the culture that used to live in these areas." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So he actually wrote a book over the Shell midden life on the Cumberland River. And basically, in layman, like just on the basics of it, is 6,000 to 10,000 years ago, the Indian culture that was on property, instead of being farmers, these were fishermen. They were bringing shell life out of the river because our river used to produce mussel shells and little shells that you could clean out and eat. But after that went away centuries ago. But the Indian culture that was on property, they would gather up the shells, they would clean them, eat them, throw the shells in a big pile. And there's about a half an acre spot of where they had been just throwing these over thousands of years, just making a pile in there. So that scared me at first, but in my mind, I'm really nerdy when it comes to history. I like it. I think you should preserve it. I think that there are ways that you can develop and preserve history at the same time and have them coincide instead of, "Hey, here's this parking lot for you guys. Park your RVs." So it was in an area that, I mean, we could develop it and get more lots out of it, but I feel like it plays a better role with preserving it. So we're going to have a boardwalk park that goes through it and tells that history, really shows people what the land once was. So we've had local Indian associations come out to the property to look at it, let us know their thoughts, and they're backing us through all of this because we really do want to preserve it. And this will be a way that people actually find out this history exists, because right now it's a looting pit, basically. People that did know it was back there, and that's how the state actually found out that it was back there, is because people would find arrowheads or just pottery or things that were back there on times because they were just digging through the property. So you could actually go over there, and there's spots where an excavator was back there at one point trying to dig through it as well. But what was good about that is you could jump down in these pits and just see the just 1,000 years of just different levels that were out there and everything. So to me, it was the most exciting part about it because I knew its potential. But at the end of looking back at it now, it's like, okay, there's a lot of headaches that kind of come along with that because you're working with federal, state, and all these different agencies with it. But I was very forthcoming with this. The moment I found out about all these things, I told the community, I told my friends, I told everything about it. And I was like, how do we work around this? What do we need to do to still get what we want by still preserving this? And they've been on board with it. They're like, well, we're working through the steps with everything. They know my intentions are pure at the end of the day to really bring something great to the community. So as of right now, everyone's still on board. So hopefully no one changes jobs and there's someone new comes in, and then we'll be good.
With the land, I have a question about it. I think it's great that you're going to actually have some uniqueness to the resort by having this history there as well. But my question is, how do you pick the land that you're going to use for this? Did you take an expert, like an RV park building expert, with you when you were seeking out or looking at different land for this project?
So one of the things that I broke down my criteria early and what I was kind of looking for. Because not only did I look at just Nashville, I ended up looking at a lot of Middle America in the beginning stages of this, because there was such an open end to this that not many people have got into this game yet to service them. So Middle America is still wide open. I mean, it'll be wide open for the next 20, 30 years with the way things are going. So I had criteria. I knew I loved water. I think there was a study that came out a couple of years ago that said you're scientifically proven to be happier around water. And I believe that. We're at the lake all the time during the summers. So I wanted water, and I wanted to be in an area that had good highway system, that was big on tourism, and just had a good feel about the property as well. So, and it needed to be a size. So I knew that if looking at, because I get super nerdy in this, and was like, okay, how big does the lot have to be? How big does this have to be? How many lots can you fit on a piece of land? All these different things kind of played into it. And I just made a buy box. It was 40 acres and above. It had to be on water, and it had to be close to one of the major metropolitan areas. And Nashville was my first one. So I identified probably 6 different properties in the beginning of this. And it just so happened that 4 of those properties were all in the same county, in Cheatham County, just north of Nashville. So I started that research in there, and it was that small world situation that the one property that we ended up going with, I was looking into it further. I found it. I was like, man, this will be pretty good. So during those Google stages in the beginning that I was doing, if you Google how to build an RV park, back then there was a guy in Colorado. His name was Matt Corrin. He's with Outdoor Design Group. He builds RV parks. He will help you design them. He will help you do A to Z. It even comes with a financial team that will do your CapEx, will do your financials for you with all of that. And then on the other end of that, they also have a management team that can come in and do all this. So it was more of like a one-stop shop with all this to help you put together your idea and to justify to the financial backers within this that I wasn't doing this alone. That this guy that, yeah, he has a construction background, he has development stuff, but he's never done a $25 million resort like this. And this is his first thing he's ever doing when it comes to something like this, besides a house flip or two. So I knew I'd have that whole team behind me. So Matt came in, he flew into town. I gave him the properties that we're looking at, and the one we finally went with, he came in, went through it, walked through it for a couple days with me, decided that like this was our best bet for us to kind of get what we wanted out of this. And instead of jumping straight in and buying the property, I slow walked it. I knew in what I was doing was rare. I knew that by talking to the community and being super involved, that what they would allow and wouldn't allow at that piece of property. I really looked into the zoning behind it, all those things. So we had to rezone on it, and we had to take that property from ag to a commercial PUD, basically is what it is. And that was after meeting with the county and like, hey, this is what we want to do, but the property's zoned this. Can we do it? And after kind of deliberation on it, you could do an RV park within the ag zoning, but you couldn't do to the magnitude we wanted. There were so many variances around being able to have how long someone could stay, how long the lot could be, what you could and couldn't do on that lot. So I basically built what we wanted to do and then came to them, and we kind of came up with a new zoning to put it in. And then then I went to town on getting it rezoned, which was probably the craziest 6 months of my life, because it was month after month going up in front of the county. And it's an old school county. They've kept it small because of the community leaders. They didn't want certain growth. They saw some bad growth and were like, we don't want any of that anymore. So they kind of hindered their growth in a sense too. Yeah, you can slow things down, but you have to be able to see the future to be able to keep up with it as well. So they slowed things down and didn't want anything new. It was a lot of people didn't want change, and that was the big thing on it. They were like, we moved here for the small town life, and this isn't going to be small town anymore. And that I didn't understand that, because this is an RV park. At the end of the day, it's a bunch of happy people and not another housing complex and condos and all that. This is an outdoor place, even for the community to come in and enjoy with it. And I understood the pushback. I understood it. And I grew up in a small town in Tennessee. So you understand the feel with it. But in my mind, I wasn't creating anything negative. So I got out in front of it. I went and did community meetings. I invited everyone to come in and talk to me. And I would go down. I probably sat down with 30 plus people from community leadership wise, and sat down and did some interviews with them and talked about and answered the questions from where your money was actually coming from. Was it coming from Saudi Arabia or overseas? to your just thy intentions with stuff, because a lot of people really thought that they knew that historical stuff was back there, but they wanted it left alone. They didn't want to share that history with anyone, and they really thought I was just going to come in and bulldoze all of it. That was never my intentions for any of it. Was preserve that, because I'm a big believer since I've become a developer that I said it earlier, you don't have to destroy the history or destroy the beauty of the land that we live in to just make a dollar.
And what phase of development is it in right now?
We have started putting in our permits for everything on it. We finally got back all of our redesigns, because when I went into to rezone the property, we had found out about the historical spot later, exactly where it was. So I had a full mapped out plan. And then once we went in and did the archaeological surveys, your TDEC, your wetlands, the other 100 things you have to do along with it, that's when we went back to the drawing board and was like, okay, where do we include all these things? What things do we have to impact? And what things can we kind of protect? Because there's some wetlands on the property that we are going to have to impact, and we've got to kind of take that into mind with the designs of everything as well. But hopefully, and everyone's been playing ball so far, but like I said, hopefully no one new comes in and comes on staff.
And Joey, a lot of times I think of the term Motorcoach as like the Class A bus style. Is that what this RV park will be for, or is it open for fifth wheels? Because you had mentioned fifth wheels a little bit earlier too, and I wasn't sure.
So the fifth wheel thing was basically how I got into all of this was, and at first we had considered doing the fifth wheels and whatnot, but a lot of your turn points and everything, you got to have different turning radiuses. And another thing is, any of us can come pick a fifth wheel and go drive it somewhere. You don't really need some training with it. But these Class A's, you don't have a newbie getting in these Class A's and whatnot. Yeah, you could, but it's very rare on that. And we've got a lot of great parks around here for fifth wheels and all that. So I saw that niche part of selling lots within there, and to sell those in the luxury level, you needed to keep it in the Class A realm. But I'm a big NASCAR fan, like racing in general. I wouldn't even say just NASCAR, because I just love racing in general. And one of the other things that have become super popular is your Class C's and your Super C's. And those guys, I've loved those rigs for a long time. And there's a lot of big sports people that are kind of into those. So excluding those was I couldn't do it. So it's going to be a Class A and a Super C resort.
I hear Super C's have the nicest drive to. I've never driven one, unfortunately, but friends of mine that have test drove Super C's, they're like, once you drive a Super C, you'll never want to drive anything else again.
It's like the big semis and everything. It's basically it. And my dad, when I was younger, was a truck driver and stuff. So taking trips across the United States and stuff like that was kind of where a lot of this kind of started with the RVs.
So the park is going to be, or the resort is going to be separated somewhat between owner lots and lots that are able to be reserved by people. Will there be any, like you had mentioned the half mile of waterfront. Are the waterfront lots going to be mainly for owners then?
Yep.
And then my second part of that question is, are there going to be like boat ramps or launches or anything like that if people do bring some type of watercraft with them?
Yeah, so we're going to split the property in half. So the half closer to the water will be ownership lots, but all those owners will be able to put their lots back into a rental program as well. Okay. And typically that's what you kind of see in this is they'll put it back into the rental spot, and then the resort will manage that rental out for them when they're not there. The lots closer to the road will be the rental lots that we'll have, and those they'll be rented out by the resort. And a lot of those will be ones that you attract people to come in to tour them around, want to buy as well. And then for the boat ramps, we're going to have boat docks out there. But one of the things that we found out during the development stage is if you have a boat ramp, it has to be a public ramp, unless it's on private property, if it's commercial stuff like that. So instead of charging a a launch fee or anything like that for the locals. We've got some boat launches like right up the road from us, so they're not far. But we will have boat docks and everything because you can go upriver and go to a couple restaurants, and then you can go downriver and then go into Nashville itself.
Will you have a boat rental?
Oh yeah, boat rental for sure. That's one of the things that we'll work with your local. That's one of the good things of working with some of the local businesses. We've got some good companies that are doing boat rentals and doing. They call them a pontoon saloon is a good one here in Nashville that does pontoon rides up and down the river. So being as close as we are to Nashville, we'll be able to do event rides down to the river. So if there's a Titans game, we can go down and dock right at the stadium and go to a game. You can go be dropped off to go downtown. You can go to concerts. There's so many different things that you can play with the water side of this that I'm so excited about because I'm a big water guy. But that river, I mean, go to Nashville, but that river can go all the way down to and go out to the Gulf of Mexico. So it all ties in. So it's a major shipping channel that goes right in front of our resort. One of the cool things that happened probably 6 months ago, and it was one of the new things. I was out there just touring the property and kind of looking at stuff. And then I look up and there's a cruise ship going right in front of us headed towards Nashville. It had 5 decks on it. People were out, and I'm just waving like a weirdo. I'm just shocked that there was a cruise ship. So I started looking into it a little bit, and they do cruises from Memphis to Nashville like 3 times a week. And I'm like, wow, I don't know if I would ever take a cruise from Memphis to Nashville, but hey, or float your boat.
Literally.
And then Kenny and I have found throughout the years doing this that many RV owners of all types, most of us have pets.
Yeah.
Are you going to allow pets at the resort as well?
Pet friendly for sure.
Yeah, it's a big deal. I feel like 80% of RVers are definitely pet owners, so that's great.
We have a dog and a cat, and so we'll have 2 dog parks out on property as well for the owners and renters.
Nice. Okay. And then, Joey, the people that would be purchasing a property, they're able to rent that out when they're not using it. Is it being rented out by them personally, or is the resort going to help them rent that out?
Now, all the management of the rental lots will be ran by the resort. So we'll set all the rules to that so that the owners don't have to worry about it. And a lot of the owners on that side of it, it's not necessarily you're trying to make a ton of money off of renting your lot in this. It's more of paying your dues and all that while you're not there. Because I've found that a lot of these owners own in multiple resorts. And once they'll spend so long in one and so long in the other, and then they'll rent it out in other times. And then other owners they don't rent out it at all. It'll sit there. I got to talk to the gentleman who is the real estate agent for Key West RV Resort. As I was walking through with him, and he was showing me, and he goes, "Yeah, that guy comes like maybe a couple weeks out of the year, but then it sits vacant for the whole year." And I'm like, "How much is that?" He was like, 1.4 million. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, it just sits there. And I'm like, man, we're in different tax brackets.
That's incredible. So then will there be minimum nights of stay or maximum nights of stay? It sounds like there won't be a maximum, like you could stay as long as you need to. And if so, is that controlled by the county? Do they regulate that in a way? Do they tell you, hey, you know what, we're happy that you're building this luxury Motorcoach resort here, but we have some stipulations?
Yeah, and that was one of our things on there too. We don't want this to be a place that you come and your rig just sits there and it sits on blocks. So there will be rules that that thing will have to be started up, moved off property every 90 days so that we know that it's an operational vehicle on there. No long, you don't have a time limit on how long you can stay there, but your rig has to be moving at certain points of it. And then you're not on the minimum stay on it itself. Typically on this, you're getting more than just the overnighters because that's not really the resort we're kind of going for. And being in Nashville, you've got people are usually planning their trips to come in for a multiple day stay for this. If they can find a spot. The KOA is getting like $150 a night for a gravel lot in Nashville.
Now, what about people that are interested in purchasing? I know you're not open yet. You're expected to open next year at some point, but are you going to start selling those lots ahead of the completed build?
Yep. So we'll start a reservations. We'll do it in 2 stages. We'll kind of get the excitement up a little bit with the reservations. We'll allow owners to come in and put their name on a list to be the first person to choose a lot that they kind of want, and then we'll convert those over to actual contracts in the pre-sale stage. So that goes back to the real estate agent that I was able to find during this. During those research times, listening to podcasts, I found a couple, George and Lisa Hernandez. They're out of South Carolina. Lisa is a real estate agent, does a lot of stuff in Charleston, but she had got into the RV world, her and George did, and she started selling these RV lots at Hilton Head Motorcoach Resorts. And they have a podcast where they travel around and will just talk about their adventures and stuff. So I listened to every word she talked about during this to really learn that lifestyle that they were living. Once I really pulled the trigger on this and started putting the plan together, after a year of listening to their podcast, I kind of reached out to them and told her what I was doing. And it was fate every day from then, because she just loved Nashville. She knew that Nashville needed a place like this. They'd talked about it, and we hit it off. And after her helping me out, answering every question I could have ever imagined, she helped with that. I went up to her and asked her, I was like, it'd be dumb not to do this with you. So she came on and said she will run the brokerage for us. And her living this lifestyle, it made it easy. She has friends that all want to do this. She knows that group of people that I want to get to know, but I didn't have to recreate the wheel here. She had all those pieces to the puzzle that we were trying to put together for the bigger company.
Yeah, like you said, it's hard to do it on your own. You got to find the right teammates to get it done.
And it's boring on your own. I don't like it's. I can't high five someone. I can't have something to talk about if other people aren't kind of almost invested in it and stuff like that. So being in the corporate world, it's team. You don't get things done without a good team. So getting everyone on board and seeing the vision that I really wanted this. And I think it was easy to get the right people around me, because everyone saw what we were doing here from the beginning stages and knew we wanted to do something great and be one of the first in the state as well. So,
and there's a design on your website, I think, of the layout kind of the resort.
Yep.
As of now, that's the accurate drawing.
Yeah, that's the one that we just reposted. There was one up there a little bit earlier that didn't have the archaeological site pointed out, and I can let the cat out of the bag. There's another historical spot on the property as well that we're preserving, but we just don't know the history of it yet. We've not been able to find anything. Apparently, when that main road was cut in to the property, before that, it's a state highway now. But before that, there was a housing community that was in that area. There was a post office. There was a hotel, and this was in the early 1800s. There's a cistern that sits on top of the hill on top of the property that has some old foundations there. But when you look for the history, can't find it. It's very strange that the history in that area has kind of disappeared. Through me getting involved in the community, getting to meet some of the local leaders, there's a gentleman, Charles Sullivan. He's kind of a local legend in there. His family's from that area. He wears these Liberty overalls and just stands like this a lot. He just reminds me of my grandfather. So I love the guy to death. But he's told me so many stories about all of this, and we've just been kind of researching it now, trying to figure out what's there, because it'd be a great area to recreate what was once there, with the old buildings that could be there for walking and picnics. And there's so many different ideas you could do it if and when we figure out what was actually there.
Yeah. I kind of want to go visit just because you're preserving the history.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's so awesome.
It's going to be, and thinking about that too is like, that's what's going to drive people to us as well. Like, I've got some good buddies that I've met through this that are developing other resorts, and they went more towards just the regular RV park. You're people that were coming in, staying a night or two, and then kind of passovers and whatnot. And the money was great on that, but I was like, well, why aren't people coming there? There wasn't a story with it. And if we're going to do something of this magnitude, have a story with it that will resonate with people and resonate with people outside of this community so that they can also come and learn about it, because I did not know this existed 4 years ago. It's still mind blowing that people are buying an RV lot and building it out and staying there a month and then going off to one of their other 9 houses or something. But
it sounds like they're going to want to stay there for at least a month between what you're going to have at the at your resort, plus everything there is to do in the area. I think this will be like a destination location.
That's exactly what we're looking for. Nashville in itself is a destination, but Ashland City, where we're doing this, is this small little country town that still has that feel. There's restaurants right up the road that has some of the best catfish you could have ever imagined. They get a little diner in town called Cody's that you walk in, it's hey, hi, how you doing? How's your mama? How's your kids? Kind of things. That
Nice.
It has that feel that you don't get necessarily when you go into Nashville, and that's just a different feel. Going to Nashville, it's party, go food. There's the river. There's a nightlife. There's millions of things to do, but 25 minutes down the road, you get that outdoor world that I enjoy so much.
It's great too that you're going to have these cabins on property as well, because not everybody owns a large Class A motorhome. So the fact that you're going to be able to open it up to just about anybody, really anybody that wants to come and stay, they can rent out a cabin from you guys and enjoy the property. I think that's really great that you guys are offering the cabins. Or even a better probably scenario, somebody that comes and visits you with their Class A Motorcoach, and then maybe they have family come in and stay in the cabin.
Well, that was the big thing too on this, was the family aspect of it, because people that are going to be coming to the resort and are only the Class A's and Super C's are typically your baby boomers, is going to make up a majority of those. So they got their grandkids and they love their grandkids, but they don't necessarily want their grandkids on the coach with them. So this is a good place to have your family come in. And for me, being someone who is still an outsider to this world and doesn't own a motor coach, it's one of those thoughts is like, I could come in and experience this world that didn't know existed without having. Maybe this is that jump start to, okay, I want to get an RV, not necessarily Class A, but let's do a travel trailer. Let's do an Airstream. Let's just start out and see where this kind of takes this. It'd be great to hear someone's story in 20 years where they're like, I came to your resort, we stayed in your cabin, and now we own a lot here. I was like, that would be part of that story that we want to build.
Yeah, that'd be incredible. Speaking of the lots, Joey, will there be different tier lots? Like, will you have lots that maybe have a barbecue grill on them, maybe a patio, or are they all going to be like equally set up? I guess some of them don't have views of the river.
So we'll have different packages on them. So we're working with a local company, Homestead Timber Frames. This company makes some of the most beautiful pavilions you could have ever imagined. Handcrafted, Douglas firs, cedars. All they're in an hour from the resort. A little bit over an hour. But they are going to make custom packages with outdoor kitchens, patio areas, fireplaces, landscape packages. And we'll basically have an A, B, and C package. And then you can do add-ons and takeoffs from there.
I know you're excited about the entire project, but if you had to pick one thing, what are you most excited about for a guest to experience?
The view. It's so gorgeous. That, like, the view out there, I think it's unmatched with, your sunsets, your sunrises, being on the river. That's, I think, extremely exciting, because anybody that's come by so far, we've probably toured, I think I'm up to 8 tours now of the property where people have come in and just wanted to see the bare land and kind of see what we were kind of building. And luckily, one of the great things about the resort, and I this kind of tickles me to death, is right beside the property, there's a little pond on one side of us that runs out to the river. And then on the inside of that is a little country store called Teeter's Market. And that's typically where I have everyone meet me. We meet in the parking lot. I take them in. If they want a water, they want a little chicken and biscuit or whatever, get to meet everyone, and kind of just so that when those owners are coming in, potential owners, they're seeing that small town that I want people to realize what we have. And this isn't Nashville. This is that small town. How you doing? How's your mama? How's your kids? Kind of thing. So take them from there and go into the property has just been, everyone has their mouth has dropped because of being able to see a half a mile riverfront that is unobstructed, because across from us will never, you've got one end has some industrial parks at the end, but they're a barge building company. So they actually, when they're done doing they're building them, they throw them down into the water. So we'll have a pavilion down there, and we'll announce when they drop the barges down in the water as well. And then across from us, basically the entire way is a park on the other side of wetlands and whatnot that the city owns. So there have been no plans to be able to develop in there because of that land. So our view should never change for the next, at least until I'm gone.
I know you're on our podcast today, and we really appreciate you coming on and talking about the project. But what other types of marketing or how are you getting the word out to that specific crowd of luxury RV owners to get them aware of your resort?
Well, luckily, and I guess some people could say unluckily, is this crowd's niche. They all hang out in the same groups. They all talk in the same groups. They are on the Facebook groups together and whatnot. So you've got I don't know, probably 10 different Facebook groups of where they all kind of hang out in. And with this outdoor world, you're not typically going to you're not coming in town and sitting at your lot and not talking to anyone. This is friendly. This is neighborly. So everyone talks within this industry, and they're always asking where they should go, where they shouldn't go, and all that, which could be bad, because if you get the bad reputation, you got to find a way to save yourself and come back from that. But the marketing side is sticking on Facebook, and I'm very active on Facebook. I'm a millennial. I'm a big fan of bridging old school mentality of being in front of people to bridging the social media world where you can reach different parts of the world itself, all through this at the same time. So I'm my biggest fan in a sense, because I'm on there. I'm on those Facebook sites and commenting on other people's stuff and trying to get in the algorithms and everything else that kind of goes on that. But you don't have to recreate the wheel here when it comes to this group and it comes to marketing to them. So going to your expos as well, that's a big one. And you don't have to go to all of them, because one of the things that I've noticed just locally, I mean, there's an RV. You could go to an RV show every single week if you wanted to in America. They're everywhere. So, but not necessarily everyone's a good market for what we're doing. So if I was doing a mom and pop kind of KOA place, I'd be marketing to the world. I'd be trying to get out and spending all this money on marketing and whatnot. But what we're doing here in Nashville is we're creating our own class of resort here in Nashville, so that we don't have competition when it comes to this. There's not another Class A resort in Tennessee, in Middle Tennessee, that they can go to. The reason like Florida worries me is because I've had people like, oh, go to Florida. That's where it's sunny all the time and it's all this and that. And I'm like, that's also where 95% of all the luxury resorts are in the United States, is they're all in Florida, and they've got some great ones down there, but they're 100 miles from each other. So where do you want to live at in Florida? Here in Nashville, it's come to us. You can go to some of these other resorts and whatnot around here, but you're not going to have the amenity packages with it. And a lot of these buses, where I think I mentioned earlier, you start noticing little things about the industry. I would notice these buses sitting more in a mall parking lot or a grocery store parking lot, because they can't necessarily go to some of these other resorts because their rigs are too big for them. Carving out our own little hole within Tennessee, and luckily on this is since I am very, very vocal about it and getting involved is noticing that the RV parks get a bad rep sometimes, because when you think of RV park, a lot of people think the old Winnebago sitting on blocks or a trailer and whatnot. So, and that I fought that hard in Cheatham County going through zoning. They're like, oh, he's going to put a trailer park in here and all this and that. And like, they're like, no, we do not want an RV resort. And like, guys, this is not what you think it is. So I had renderings made. I had those things to kind of proof of concept to go along with this, because it was, you're doing a trailer park through all of this. And it was like, yeah, bring something nice. But through this research and the different counties, they've started to outlaw RV parks. They don't just want just your other RV parks. We've got nice ones already, so let's keep those. Yeah, and I'm like, great, awesome. Push them further away from us. We have no more competition. But I like competition, but at the same time, like, if everyone else decides we don't need it, I'm in.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're right though that RV parks do get a bad rep, and a lot of times people do think of, I can't remember his name, but from like the National Lampoon's Christmas Story or Christmas movie, they think of Cousin Eddie and his RV, and he's like dumping it in the sewer out in the street. I mean, a lot of times that's what people kind of think of. So, but
so I was at a meeting. One of the meetings I had, it's funny. I actually, you brought up Cousin Eddie. That I had one of the meetings I had a picture of Cousin Eddie. I was like, this is what everybody thinks we're doing, and then this is what we're actually doing.
But I was going to say, it's smart of you to already have those renderings and the idea to present to them and show them, visually show them, because people are very visual. This is not what you're thinking. Let me show you what we're doing.
You had to sell them on what you were actually doing, so that they didn't have the ability to get the wrong concept and talk about it. Because the issues that we ran into in Cheatham County where we were getting this zoned was people love the idea in a sense, but they didn't understand it. And once they did understand it, if they still hated it, they resulted to lying and just like making up stuff about it. And man, the craziest stories were told at these meetings. We had a gentleman, I'll tell one quick one. One of this guy, so one of the things that I did before most of the meetings is offer to meet anybody. Like I'll meet you guys out in front of the courthouse. We'll talk about this. We'll do whatever. And one guy comes up to me and he shakes my hand. He's like, "Hey, we really like your resort. We love this idea. It's gonna be great for the community." I was like, "Man, awesome. When you get in there, will you say that? Will you get up in front of them and say that? That would help me out a ton. I'd really appreciate it." He goes, "Yeah, sure." So I'm sitting there with my girlfriend, and he gets up and he's walking up. I'm like, "Yes, finally somebody that's on our side." He gets up and he starts talking. He goes, "Do you guys know what Mr. Locker's development is presenting to you guys today?" Well, he says he's going to have boat docks and boat ramps on his property. He goes, "Do you know who uses boat docks and boat ramps? The cartel. The cartel is going to come in. They're going to make our drug problem that we have in our community worse, and then they're going to take that resort from him." Dude, my face was just dumbfounded. I was like, "What? Was that not the guy we just talked outside? That was like, good job." And then he just looked at me and walked by, and I was just like, "What?" It was, you just had just those things that just started coming up. And that was the moment though. It was our last meeting. They were actually doing the vote of everything, that I was like, "All right, I'm going to go last. I'm going to have the last say in all this." And everyone kind of went up in front of me, and they got it approved for me, basically, from what they were doing, because they didn't come with facts. I came with facts. And one of the things that a group of people started putting all their complaints online, talking about what they didn't like, what the problems were. And I was like, awesome. I will write all these down. I will have responses to every one of these for the time we got in there. And I did. I had responses to all of them. So when it came to finally them lying about stuff, The commissioners were smart. These weren't dumb people. They'd been listening for the last 6 months. They understood what we were doing here, what we were bringing, the amount of tax dollars this was going to bring to the community. They understood all that. So when they got up there and started lying, I stood back and I was like, man, they're going to get this approved for me. Time this is over with. And finally they did, because they couldn't come up with any more. They didn't have any justification to shut us down. So it finally came down to it that we had the legal right to do what we wanted to do. So that played in a factor, but we didn't need to. We didn't need to have to play that. We'll call our lawyers things, because that would have never worked anyways. They would have drugged this out for years and years and stuff. And the last thing that I want to be known as a developer is someone that fought with the communities and brought something that they didn't want. Like, I want to be around people that want me there instead of are always trying to push me out.
Yeah, I feel like a resort like this is really good for the community, because you're going to get people that are probably there for the very first time. And the thing that they're going to do is go out, explore, and spend their money at the local restaurants. They're going to spend their money at the museums. They're going to spend their money to see the area that they're visiting. I feel like it's a win for the community.
But some people, you got to think, some people don't want that change. They don't want that store to get bigger. They don't want that to see more people in that restaurant that they have to wait. They have to wait now and stuff. So I get it, but I like change. I think if you embrace change and embrace it in the right ways, it can be positive. And I understand the negative impacts of change and stuff as well, but you can accept change and make it work for the benefit instead of the negative part of the community.
Joey, I think that's all of our questions for you today, unless you think there's something that we might have missed or something that you want to add to the conversation before we let you go.
Man, I would like, one of the things I feel like a message I like to put out is, like, for the younger generations that are just scared of taking a step to go do something, just go do it. Go fail already. Go fail. Go fall on your face. Because at the end of the day, like, if you can get up and your phone can do anything for you these days. This little internet thing, there's no reason to not go after something that you want. I got lucky to see people go after their dreams and do it. And now that I've actually taken those steps to do it, it's like, man, I should have did this so much sooner. I should have failed so many more times in my life to be able to get to this point. That, I don't know, I think kids, and hell, even somebody at any age, just if you're still walking and breathing, go try it, because I don't want to die with $1 million in the bank. There's no point in it.
Do you think a lot of times people are afraid to fail because of an embarrassment?
Man, stop worrying about other people. The moment you can stop worrying about other people's thoughts on you, your day will go so much better. If you can get the right people around you who will judge you in your worst, but when they're judging you, they're also giving you that help that you're looking for too, giving you that constructive criticism, and will look at you and like, man, you're being dumb right now. You need to fix some things. And I've been lucky to find that group of people around me that will tell you to your face, hey, that you're not doing it right. And you take that in and you fix it. And it's a positive. So go be embarrassed, because it's worth it.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to having you back on when this thing's up and running, and you can tell us some good stories about the first visitors you have.
Well, hopefully you guys will come down and see it in person, and we'll do a podcast there.
Oh yeah,
that sounds even better.
There you go.
Yeah. We want to thank Joey for coming on the show. We really appreciated him sharing his experience in developing an RV resort from scratch. It certainly seems like it can be frustrating at times. If you would like to learn more about Locker's Southern View Luxury Motorcoach Resort, you can go to lsvmotorcoachresort.com and take a look. As always, we want to thank our sponsors for making this show possible. Also, we want to thank our listeners for tuning in. We do ask a favor, though. If you could go to the podcast platform you are listening to us on and leave a rating or review, we would really appreciate it. It doesn't cost anything except a couple minutes of your time. Thank you and safe travels.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. With the complexity of all the systems in an RV, I always say it's not if something's going to break, but a matter of when is something going to break. That is why I think an extended warranty for RVs is so important. We first interviewed wholesale warranties back in 2019 and immediately became impressed with how their policies worked, such as you can take your RV to any licensed repair shop, including mobile repairs. They also have personalized service plans, making sure you are getting the right policy for your needs. And if you think your RV is too old for a policy, you might be surprised to hear that RVs up to 20 years old can still be approved for a policy. That is more age lenient than most RV parks I've stayed at. Go to wholesalewarranties.com/beyond the wheel or click the link down below in our show notes to get your free quote today.